Hey y'all, it's Mahindra Don and I'm back with something a little different than what I normally do. Normally I'm showing something off because I want to sell it. But now what I want to do is help some of y'all. I've been getting a lot of calls lately, people who see my videos and kind of have some questions about where things are located, and I notice a lot of y'all are new to the tractor world and you're just learning, and you definitely don't want to make a mistake that could cost you a lot of money if you damage your tractor or put something in the wrong place. So for those of you who like to do your own maintenance, this is the beginners here. I'm not going into a bunch of technical stuff. I'm just going to point out a few things and show you where some of the stuff is and what's kind of important. I'm going to miss a lot of stuff. I'm not going to be perfect, but that's Mahindra Don for you. Try. So first off, one thing I want to point out to people is airflow. All right, right here, this tractor came in for some maintenance, and it's been pretty well taken care of. You can see the screen comes out without any tools or anything. It comes out, and that needs to be clean, folks. If the screen right there, especially if you're doing a lot of mowing and stuff, it'll get clogged up. Your tractor will start running hot. Your overflow for your radiators right here, and if it runs hot, it will overflow, and you'll have catastrophic engine problems. You don't want that. So that's one point of airflow that I wanted to mention, was that screen right there. And like I said, it just pulls right up. It's got a little handle right there. Now behind here is your actual air filter. Now every couple hundred hours, this should get completely replaced if I was you. Of course, it does depend on where you're at and what you're doing. If you're in an environment that's not real dry and dusty, it might not be too dry and dusty. But that's your air filter, and what you want to do is take it out and blow some air across it, maybe hit it with a shop vac or something like that every 20 hours or so, 10-20 hours. You want to keep an eye on that, because again, bad airflow means the engine's not breathing right, and that causes problems. This ain't easy to do with one hand. I'm going to lay that right there. Alright, so next, engine oil. Alright, this one here has been serviced recently. You can tell it's got a new oil filter on it. Not necessarily a Mahindra filter, but it's a filter that apparently fits, and it's probably specified for this tractor. It probably meets specifications. The hardest thing to find on these Max tractors is the engine oil dipstick, and it's right there. So you're going to pull out your dipstick and you're going to check it. Diesel oil always looks dirty, people. This could have been just changed yesterday, but diesel oil kind of always looks a little dirty. And then down in here, you'll see where it goes back in. It's a little difficult to do while I'm holding the camera and trying to keep this light from shining right in my eyes. But that is your dipstick. And of course, it's a lot easier to get at when you have that side panel off. The side panel just clips in right here. So you just pop that out and then pull it forward. While I'm down here, I will point out the fuel filter. This fuel filter has just been replaced. It's nice and clean. Inside this, when you spin this off, people, please be aware that there are some little rubber O-rings. Make sure that when you get a new fuel filter, it comes with a new O-ring. Or if you're moving that filter, if you're just checking it, cleaning it out, they do say check it, clean it out every 20 hours or so. But if you're just doing that, do not lose those things. You will have a perpetual fuel leak down here, and it is not good. Alright, so there we have that. I think I started to mention your radiator overflow jug is right here. It should be right about there when it's cold. Alright, now we're going to move to transmission fluid. Alright folks, transmission fluid in these machines is a universal hydraulic tractor fluid. Don't buy the cheap stuff. Buy the premium stuff. Yeah, it's going to be $80, $90, $100 for a 5-gallon bucket, but on this tractor, on these little Max tractors, it takes 7 or 8 gallons. So what I would recommend to people, and that depends on hydrostat or gear, but what I would recommend to people is going ahead and buying 2 5-gallon buckets. That way you always have it, just in case you bust a hydraulic line or something like that. But the hydraulic fluid, it really only needs to be changed. I think in the book it says drain the fluid every 200 hours, replace the filter every 3. Really, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You follow your book, but about 300 hours on the hydraulic fluid and filter should be just fine. Some big tractors you go every 1,000 hours, and that's if you use premium fluid. If you're using junky fluid, it's not going to last that long. If you're running it real hot, doing a whole lot of different work, a lot of back and forth with a hydrostat transmission, that will cause the fluid to degrade a little quicker than normal. So 300 will be plenty safe for you. So here's where you check it. You pull that up, and there is it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little grid there, and that grid should be wet. And you can see about halfway up on this grid, it's wet. Here's where you add it. Again, add universal hydraulic tractor fluid here. Do not put gear oil in here. I've seen a lot of people make that mistake. Gear oil does not go in there. It will be a big problem. And in the engine over here on the top of the engine where it says oil, 15W40 goes in there if you're in a normal climate in the United States. If you're at a real high elevation or someplace really, really cold, Alaska or something, then you're going to use a different kind of oil. Look it up what you need for your area. But here, most people use 1540, and Rotella's fine. It's a good oil, Rotella T. Choose what you like, but use premium stuff. You don't buy something that's this nice and put cheap crap in it. Put the good stuff in there. Use the Mahindra stuff if possible. If you have a Mahindra dealer near you, try and get their stuff. It's guaranteed to work good, and it's guaranteed not to void your warranty. Alright, speaking of fluids, on the front axle here, people say, what goes in the front axle? Well, that, folks, is where the gear oil does go. So you'll use a 80-90 probably weight. That's what we like around here. We use an 80-90, and you check it by spinning that cap off and sticking your finger down in there. If it doesn't get wet at all, it's time to add some. It should be wet at the tip of your finger. So this tractor right here, it's time to add probably. Now on this, another major important thing about your gear oil that's in the front differential is that it needs to be on level ground. So here in the shop, it's nice and perfectly level. When you drain the gear oil, you'll see up underneath, if you can see it right there, is a drain plug. There's one on the other side as well. So that's your two lowest points. You take that out, I think it's 10 or 12 millimeter, something like that. You take that out and you drain it on out, and then you put the plugs back in and pour in from the top. And again, 80W90 gear oil is what we use here. Your climate might dictate something different, so check in your book to be sure. I showed you where the engine oil filter is, the engine oil drain. Now some of these have two, you got to be careful. Right here's your drain plug, and sometimes on the other side of the transaxle there's another drain plug on the opposite side of the tractor, because you can see that drive shaft right there. It may be tucked up a little higher, and so your drain pan may be split into two sides. If it is one of the more compact Mahindra tractors or a different tractor, it will probably have two drain plugs. Make sure you drain all the oil out so you're putting good clean stuff in and not reusing some old nasty oil and contaminating your new stuff. Alright, the hydraulic, I told you how much it takes. Oh, the engine oil takes about 4.5 quarts, depending on which tractor it is. Put 3.5 in there and then check it. But back here you'll see tucked back in there is a filter. That's your hydrostat filter. Over here on the other side, tucked under here, is your hydraulic filter. Folks, change them filters every 200 or 300 hours depending on how hard you ride your machine. But do that, and then like I said, a little over 7 gallons, not quarts, over 7 gallons of fluid when you've changed both of those filters. Again, that's where it goes in. While I'm sitting here, some people have had some questions and asked me some things. One of the questions is, how do you work the four-wheel drive? And they 9 times out of 10 are looking at this lever because it has a picture of a tractor with an arrow pointed up, and they think when you pull that up, that's four-wheel drive. Well, folks, I'm sorry, that's wrong in this instance. This is your cruise control. When you have the pedal pressed down and you pull that up, it will stop the pedal from moving, so it will set the cruise. That is not your four-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive is right under your seat right here. The O is out, the I is in. So in, out. That's how you work your four-wheel drive. On a small tractor like this, a lot of times You don't need the four-wheel drive as much as you do a locking differential, because you're on the go and you're moving. You might be in a twisted ditch area or something. So what you do is you just hammer that down right there. That bar that you see is your locking differential. And they use hieroglyphics here. I don't like it very much, and that's where some of that confusion comes from with the four-wheel drive. This is showing a differential in the middle, and it's either open or closed. When it's closed, of course, your four-wheel drive's pulling, your mechanical front-wheel drive. And here's your differential. Like I said, hammer down, that's in. You release, and once you get going to speed, it will pop back up. The four-wheel drive, you do need to stop and press the clutch to put it in four-wheel drive. Sometimes it doesn't want to go in, and it helps to be completely stopped and have your tractor in low range. Here you got a low and a high range. You want to be in low range when you're shifting to four-wheel drive. It makes it easier to go in. The parking brake is set on a Mahindra by pushing this down and pulling that up. Now it's set. The way you turn it off is just tap it again like that. And that other lever down here is your tilt steering. Over here on the right, this is your 3-point hitch control to raise and lower your 3-point hitch, and it has a little stop here if you're tilling or something and you like that tiller to be a certain depth. You can pick it up at the end of the row and turn around and then put it back into the ground at the same exact depth. Here's your PTO. With this, it's a steady on PTO. If the tires are moving, the PTO is moving. So you can, this is showing you that the rear PTO, see the hieroglyphic showing the rear, and then the 540, that's your 540 RPM rear PTO. Some tractors will have another lever here, and that's showing you in the middle of the tractor is another PTO. If you have the mid PTO, that's a 2000 RPM PTO, and there'll be another lever right here that you can pull back and forth. So just wanted to go over some quick maintenance things and the location of a few of the pedals here. Not my most exciting video, not the funnest one, but hopefully it was informational for you guys. Anytime you need something, you're welcome to call or text me. My number is 910-233-4576, and I really appreciate y'all watching my videos.